Hello, I'm Colum Coleman, and welcome to Historical Humans Reads, where we take primary sources and bring them to your screen. Today, we are reading an excerpt from the work of Candide by the philosopher Voltaire. Voltaire was a member of the French Enlightenment, who lived from 1694 to 1778. He used wit and satire to deconstruct arguments and viewpoints in ways that allowed him to resonate with people for nearly 300 years. Many of his works, such as Candide, emphasize human skepticism and liberty. He was deemed by the French historian Gustave Lanson to be the necessary philosopher. The excerpt we'll be reading today is Chapter 3 of Candide, subtitled How Candide Escaped from the Bulgarians and What Befell Him Afterwards. Let's begin. Never was anything so gallant, so well accoutred, so brilliant, and so finely disposed as the two armies. The trumpets, fifes, hautboys, drums, and cannon made such harmony as never was heard in hell itself. The entertainment began by a discharge of cannon, which, in the twinkling of an eye, laid flat about 6,000 men on each side. The musket bullets swept away out of the best of all possible worlds 9,000 or 10,000 scoundrels that infested its surface. The bayonet was the next sufficient reason of the deaths of several thousand. The whole might amount to 30,000 souls. Candide trembled like a philosopher and concealed himself as well as he could during his heroic butchery. At length, while the two kings were causing Te Deums to be sung in their camp, Candide took a resolution to go and reason somewhere else upon the causes and effects. After passing over heaps of dead or dying men, the first place he came to was a neighboring village in the Iberian territories, which had been burned to the ground by the Bulgarians, agreeably to the laws of war. Here lay a number of old men covered with wounds, who beheld their wives dying with their throats cut and hugging their children to their breasts, all stained with blood. There, several young virgins, whose bodies had been ripped open after they had satisfied the natural necessities of the Bulgarian heroes, breathed their last, while others, half burned in the flames, begged to be dispatched out of the world. The ground about them was covered with the brains, arms, and legs of dead men. Candide made all the haste he could to another village, which belonged to the Bulgarians, and there he found the heroic Abares had enacted the same tragedy. Thence, continuing to walk over palpitating limbs or through ruined buildings, at length he arrived beyond the theatre of war with a little provision in his budget and Miss Kunigund's image in his heart. When he arrived in Holland, this provision failed him. But having heard that the inhabitants of that country were all rich and Christians, he made himself sure of being treated by them in the same manner as the Baron's castle, for he had been driven thence through the power of Miss Kunigund's bright eyes. He asked charity of several grave-looking people, who one and all answered him that if he continued to follow this trade, they would have him sent to the house of correction, where he should be taught to get his bread. He next addressed himself to a person who had just come from haranguing a numerous assembly for a whole hour on the subject of charity. The orator, squinting at him under his broad-brimmed hat, asked him sternly what brought him thither, and whether he was for the good old cause. Sir, said Candide in a submissive manner, I can conceive that there can be no effect without a cause. Everything is necessarily concatenated and arranged for the best. It was necessary that I should be banished from the presence of Miss Kunigund, and that I should afterwards run the gauntlet, and it is necessary that I should beg my bread till I am able to get it. All this could not have been otherwise. Hark ye, friend, said the orator, do ye hold the Pope to be the Antichrist? Truly, I have never heard anything about it, said Candide, but whether he is or not, I am in want of something to eat. Thou deservest not to eat or drink, replied the orator. Wretch, monster that thou art, hence avoid my sight, nor ever come near me again while thou livest. The orator's wife happened to put her head out the window at that instant, when, Seeing a man who doubted whether the Pope was Antichrist, she discharged upon his head a utensil full of water. Good heavens, to what excess does religious zeal transport womankind? A man who had never been Christian, an honest Anabaptist named James, was witness to the cruel and ignominious treatment shown to one of his brethren, to a rational, two-footed, unfledged being. Moved with pity, he carried him to his own house, caused him to be cleaned, gave him meat and drink, and made him a present of 2 florins, at the same time proposing to instruct him in his own trade of weaving Persian silks, which are fabricated in Holland. Candide, penetrated with so much goodness, threw himself at his feet, crying, "Now I am convinced that my master Pangloss told me the truth when he said that everything was for the best in this world, for I am infinitely more affected with your extraordinary generosity than with the inhumanity of that gentleman in the black cloak and his wife." Thus goes Candide by Voltaire. Excuse me. If you enjoyed this video and like to hear more excerpts from original texts, please be sure to follow us on your platform of choice. If there is a work you would like to hear, be sure to like the video and leave a comment down below. Thanks for listening.